Hi, it's Ashley and welcome to Fail Friday, the series in which I fix your baking fail, my baking fail, or I tell you how to avoid a fail. And I thought today that I would come on and talk to you guys about macarons. I know that macarons is one of those things that is really hard to just learn from watching a video. So I wanted to do something that was a little bit more interactive. And my tried and true recipe that I really love to use, I'm not able to actually share that recipe because it is a recipe that I purchased. So instead I am going to be using the recipe that I used in past, which is from Pies and Tacos, another YouTuber on the platform who is absolutely amazing. All of her macaron recipes are fantastic. I've tried a couple and they were great. So I'm going to use the same one that I've tried out before, except I'm going to show you guys in real time how to do it in case maybe you've had difficulty with the recipe or you've had difficulty with other French method macaron recipes. Now the French method is generally not my favorite in terms of making a meringue, but I do like to make Italian meringue usually or Swiss meringue. So this is using the French method, which means we're not going to do any heating on the stove whatsoever. So let's get right into it. Hi there, so nice to see you. Okay, I'm gonna flip you guys around and then we're going to get started. All right. So first things is you want to make sure that you measure out all of your dry ingredients. I'm going to pull you guys up here so I can see the live chat. All right, so as you can see, I've already separated out my egg whites, so I have everything in this bowl here. I'm going to set that aside. Knowing me, most likely going to make some creme brulee with that or carbonara. So I'm going to plastic wrap that. So in this bowl, I followed the recipe exactly as is, and after this live is actually up and I've done it, I'm going to post the link and the recipe in the description. So this is just my icing sugar, my almond flour, and I also have the cornstarch in here as well. And cornstarch is a very interesting component to this, but I do truly believe that this is what helps the no rest method happen. So in here, the one little change that I make is I actually measure out a little bit more almond flour than the recipe says. And not a lot of people do this, but the reason I do this is because we're going to run this through a little kind of sieve type thing, and that's going to get rid of all of the lumps and bumps. But in doing so, we are going to lose some of the almond flour. So it's really important that if you haven't done this a lot, you measure it out again to make sure that you have the correct ratios. This is where a lot of people do go wrong as well. So make sure that we have all of the correct ratios. This recipe fully relies on that. So the sieve that I like to use is a French sieve, and you can see the holes are a lot tinier. And the reason that we go for the tiny one obviously is because if they're too big, like a traditional kind of strainer, you're obviously not going to get out all of the lumps and bumps. Just grabbing some parchment. Now, in my personal recipe, I do like to food process everything, but this particular recipe is all about expediency. So I want to eliminate that step. Also, food processing your stuff releases the oils, and if your recipe doesn't ask you to do that, then don't do that. Okay. So as you can see, I just dumped everything in there. I'm going to quickly grab a spatula. I'm just going to rock it back and forth here. And you're going to notice all of the kind of lumps. Now I am going to take this and I am going to kind of rub it through here. And don't worry, this isn't forcing the giant lumps through. It's actually just breaking them up and then putting them through. Now, hopefully this works out today. It is a rainy day, and they say that when you're doing the French method that you shouldn't make it on a rainy day. I've never believed in this. However, I have tried my French method. I think I tried Mimi's recipe once, and it worked for me one time, and it didn't work for me the next time. So hopefully this one is reliable enough that it's going to work both times. And I'm just going to shake it through. Now what I'm left with is not too much. I think that is probably maybe like 20 grams or so, which is perfect. And if you're really trying to conserve your almond flour, you can always run that through the food processor to break it down. Okay, and then I'm going to place this all back in. Whenever I'm working on macarons, I really like to make sure that my countertop is super clean because I tend to drop some things and I like to put it all back in there. We don't want to mess up this ratio. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that all the ingredients are fully incorporated. We want to get all of those dry ingredients like so. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're going to leave that and we're going to set it aside here. I'm going to bring you guys into my other kitchen where we're going to work on the French meringue. Now this is where things always go a little bit awry for people. So this is one of the most important parts. So in here, I just have the egg whites. I did let the egg whites come to room temperature. Now you guys know me, I like to skip steps like that. However, when you are making French method meringue, macarons, whatever you're making, you do want to make sure that this comes to room temp. I just find it's going to bubble up so much nicer. We're going to turn it on there. I have my sugar pre-measured out, and we're going to put in a little bit at a time. Just going to bring you up here so you can see. Okay, you want it to get all foamy like this. At this point, I'm also going to add in my pink, just a little bit. I'm going to slow it down just a touch. I just want it really nice and pale. A little bit of sugar. A little bit more. We really want to avoid over whipping. So I'm very, very careful with how I'm doing this. Usually when I do Italian meringue, I just kind of leave it because I know the exact timing. For my French method, I don't have the timing down to a T. I'm going to go ahead and add in the sugar. So now all of our sugar is in there. Okay. I'm going to just stop it at this point. It's not going to be ready, but I want to show you what that texture looks like. Okay, see here, we have, it's actually soupy. I'm going to want to whip that even. Setting on this because I don't want to go too far past and then I have to start all over again. I don't the highest. I'm a very clean as I go person. So, all right, take another look. It's getting better. Lift this up. See how it flops over like this? We want to get rid of that flop just a little bit. But not too much. We don't want this to get bubbly and foamy. And you'll notice that the coloring of this, it's tricky because you never know exactly how much color. So if you guys are making orders for people, be really, really clear that you can't necessarily get this perfect. Okay, so we do have a little bit of flop. However, when I look in here, It's looking pretty stiff. Maybe we would go maybe 30 seconds longer, I would say. But I'm not gonna go too much more than that. Maybe less than 30 seconds, just a slight whip. Okay, let's check that out. That's looking pretty good to me. When I lifted that up, looks pretty good. Okay, we're going to bang that off. Okay, and there we have that. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna move you back into my other kitchen. Okay. Now, I think I said this in my last video, but just in case you missed it, I really take things out of my, oh, sorry for the lag, guys. It's incredibly slow. One second, just gonna fix this. Okay. So I've said this before, but when we're doing this portion, I always transfer the meringue into my dry ingredients. And before I did not do that, but now I am doing that because I found that I couldn't incorporate the ingredients properly. So I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to place it all in there at once. Some recipes will tell you to do it in parts. This is the way that I find works best for me. Really want to make sure we scrape every single little bit out of there, because this all relies on the correct measurements. Okay. Now, if you've ever colored meringues before, or if you've ever made meringue cookies that had a little bit of something else in it, we want to fold the batter. This is not really the traditional way that I have seen macarons done, but the reason that I do it this way is so that I know everything is incorporated first, then I can start deflating the meringue and taking the air out. And this is a process. It's not going to come together super quickly. Don't be impatient with this part. This is the part that matters, or else everything is ruined. So make sure we're grabbing, we're lifting. And I used to use a whisk for this as well, because when I was taught, I was told to beat and deflate the air out. But I found that it would be too far gone when I used my whisk. I did not have enough control. So I'm just using my spatula. I can feel the mixture thickening up. Oh, at this point, I should also turn on my oven. So make sure that I know what temp it's going to be at. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna check what temp it's at. I think it's 350 for these. Okay. Preheat your oven to 315, by the way. The reason that I do it now instead of earlier is I find my oven just gets hot so quickly and then it starts wrecking the macarons a little bit. So you can see everything is getting incorporated there. And we're going to keep folding. Okay, I can still see bits where it's not super incorporated. Okay, now I'm going to start doing this portion. Getting that air out. Notice Notice I'm scraping down the sides and then doing it this way. Now this to me actually seems a slight bit thicker than it was the last time I did it. It's looking okay. The macaron batter that I use when I use the when I use my Italian method is a little bit looser. Still testing it, keeping going. Notice I'm dropping down that batter lots of times. Oh, that's awesome. I love a good brownie recipe. Sorry guys, just reading the comments. We're almost there. Now, I feel a little bit questionable if this one is going to turn out. And this is the thing with the French method. It's not nearly as reliable. Okay, my fingers are crossed. We'll see if this works. Oh. Okay, so I have two different ways of doing up these macarons. First way is I have this pan here. And this one actually has the little indents and everything for your macarons. So if you're not really good at piping circles, you can use that. I also have my pro mat here as well. And these are on super heavy duty baking pans. Okay, I'm going to take my round tip. I'm going to use that. This batter seems incredibly thick. I'm hoping though. Now I always like to start off with just a little to see how it does. I'm going to pipe onto here. I'm going to go in the center because I know that this is not going to fill up the whole mat. And when you're squeezing, you want to make sure you stay in the same place. If these get feet, I will be happy. We'll see. Hopefully these work out because I want to make these for a treat box because I have some boxes that I'm going to share with you guys. And I'm really excited because it's my very, very first sponsored video. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, just to make this easier on myself, I'm just going to slide that off. I'm going to flip this upside down so I can actually do the banging portion. When you're banging your macarons, you want to make sure that you have your mats down. Just stack them. Like this. Put this on here. I'm going to put it on. Okay. I want to try and fix this peaking. Now this peaking happens when you haven't done enough macaronage. Try and get rid of this. Be very careful with it. If we can't get rid of it, we'll add a topping. It's looking okay. Okay, I'm gonna let that set. Even though this is no rest, I'm just waiting for my oven to heat up. I'm gonna go over to this side. I'm gonna make these ones slightly bigger. And you'll notice that your macaron batter will be able to see me. Just let me know. Something was awry there. Okay. So my macaron batter ended up on there. Okay, now we're gonna pipe this. And making these a little larger. I am not feeling confident about these. They just feel really thick. I'm not really sure what happened. We'll see though. Okay, and then we'll get the last one here. Yeah, there's definitely something off about this, but it is Fail Friday, so. Okay. If this happens to you, there are definitely ways to fix it. If you've ever had failed macarons, which I'm sure we've all been there. And like I said, my other method, I never have to fail with that. But when I'm trying out new ones or ones that aren't my tried and true, sometimes I do have issues. So we will see. This is to get out all those air bubbles. If you have hollow macarons, sometimes this is the reason. Okay, I'm also going to add on, so I'm not a fan of that one. I'm going to add on a little bit of sprinkle here. This is the secrets. If you ever get ones that you're not super happy with, a little sprinkle on it. Not too much, but just a little. And don't choose sprinkles that are really heavy because they will damage your shells. Okay. Now, they look okay. The feel of them wasn't my favorite. So we will see how these turn out. The oven is now fully preheated. Flipping over that pan so it gets nice and even heating. These are heavy duty pans, like I said. We're gonna put in the other ones first, and then we will do the other ones. So, we're going to rotate these trays halfway through at the 7.5-minute mark. We'll know at the 7.5-minute mark if it's a fail or if we still get feet from this. While that's happening, I will quickly look at here. Hi Angel Scorpio, hi Sarama, hi Arb's Mini World, hi Laura, and hi Bite with Craig and Tess, and hi Tropic Lush. Oh, and hi Jessica, nice to see you guys. So we're gonna go and we're gonna make the Italian meringue buttercream. So if you ever wanna make Italian macarons using that method, then I'm going to show you how to do the Italian meringue. And we have made a meringue. So it's very, very satisfying. So the first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to put my 300 grams of sugar, I'm watching it, on, and then I'm going, sorry guys. Okay. On. I like to do it on my gas stove, it just goes so much faster. This is the reason too why I have 2 mixing bowls and multiple mixing tools, because I don't like to have to clean in between as I'm doing things. It just speeds everything up so much more. And if you guys are running your own home baking business, highly recommend that you actually utilize more than one KitchenAid bowl. You don't need more than one KitchenAid or stand mixer, but having multiple bowls is a must. It increases your efficiency so much more. Now I did have this butter sitting out. It sat out for a little while, not too long. If we do end up having curdling from the butter being too cold still, we'll just place it back on the heat really quickly and it'll get fixed super quick. Thank you so much for joining me. That was such a nice comment. I love hearing you guys' comments. It really brightened up my day. I'm very excited to put out my assumptions video as well. It was really interesting, the different assumptions that you guys put on there. Super interesting. Some of them are like right on and some of them are super wrong. So I hope that the macarons work out, because I also want to show you guys how to actually airbrush your macarons and put on patterns onto them as well. Hi, Erica. Nice to see you. Ooh, Chicago. So if you guys didn't catch my short, this is the compote that I made yesterday. And it looks very dark. It has a really nice dark color. It's just a field berry mixture, so it's the blueberries making that really, really dark. We're gonna put these in the center of our macarons, if they turn out. It's always a guess. So we're just letting that sugar heat up. It will heat very fast on your gas stove. And you can use a thermometer to check this. I like to get it to 239 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I get my egg whites whipping as it hits that degree level. In here I have 110 grams of egg whites, which is approximately 4 egg whites. And then I'm going to place it on my stand mixer. This is why it's also really important to have a stand mixer as opposed to a hand mixer. You can still do it, it's just a little bit harder. And you need a lot of coordination. If you guys have any questions about the macaron recipe that we've done so far, please feel free to ask. I feel like the method for all of the macaron recipes that I've used is pretty much all the same. My recipe does one thing that's slightly different. I don't know if that is what makes all the difference, but I do find I don't get any fails with that macaron recipe. So if you guys are in the Vancouver area in BC, highly recommend you check out J'adore les macarons. They are she's an amazing woman, and she's got a great class. Obviously right now with the restrictions we have here, we're not having any in-person cooking classes, but if you ever have the opportunity, her recipe is the best. Honestly, I've tasted a lot of macarons and that's one of my favorites. So when it bubbles up like this, that's how we know it's getting close. Now, because I've made this so many times, I don't necessarily need to take out my thermometer. I know I should turn my mixer on. It is going to get a little bit loud, so I am going to turn my stand mixer on and get those egg whites nice and fluffy. I'm going to move you guys over here. You can see it's getting nice and fluffy there. And now I'm going to slowly pour this in. And I'm going to whip that on high for 1 minute. Sorry guys, my internet was cutting out. And I'm going to bring that down to about an 8. And when that's still warm, I am going to incorporate my butter. Yes, I'm making Italian meringue, and this is going to be for the buttercream. And notice I'm just slicing in that butter pretty haphazardly. I'll break it down a little bit more. And this is salted butter. I just like a little bit of salt in mine. And I'm using approximately 400 grams of butter. So I went to go and flip those macarons, and I can see there's a slight amount of feet. This could be the problem with the actual mat that I used. I don't use that often. I just wanted to show you guys that you could use that option. So we'll see if the second pan that's going to use the other mat will be better. Now, I want to show you guys something if you don't make Italian meringue buttercream often. Do you see that? It's soupy, it doesn't look right. Don't worry, you just have to keep going. At this point too, you can add in whatever flavorings you would like to. I'm just going to leave it as is. Now with Italian meringue buttercream, I do like to add in powdered flavorings or flavorings like tea, just because I find liquids do mess with the consistency a little bit. Yes. You want to use water-based for macarons or your dough. Oh. That's my compote there. I don't think I'm going to, if you wanted to, you could run this through your processor so that it's like really nice and smooth. I think I'm going to leave mine a little bit chunky so the fruit chunks are there. Okay. So we just have 2 more minutes on those macarons and we should be able to see how they did. Now I can kind of see they're not perfect. They're not as good as that first time around when I used this recipe. But I see some feet, so I'm still hopeful and crossing my fingers. And this is the thing with macarons, is one slight difference, like using that mat, can change the whole thing. And I also find that using parchment on these sheets also changes it. I actually really liked the last time that I used the Pro Mat. I really liked how they turned out. So I'm hoping that the feet will turn out just as nice. When I used them on the parchment, the difference was that they had kind of an undercooked look to them. They weren't undercooked. When I bit into it, it was fine. But for some reason, it had done something with the color composition. So I'm not a food scientist, so I'm not really sure why that happened. sorry guys, I'm going to go back here and read all of your comments. The first time I made macarons, it was a success. After that, all has failed, and I'm not sure what I've done wrong. You know what? Sometimes you just measure a little bit off, or it's just, sometimes you need a good day for making macarons as well. It really is in that macaronage portion though. That is what makes or breaks that, I find. And the more you do it, the more you're going to be able to avoid those fails. I feel daunted making Italian rice. Oh, Italian rice, like easy peasy. I find it easier than Swiss meringue. Does that sprinkle serve as the skin? Okay. All right, so I've heard my oven. I'm going to pull these out. This is a blazing hot pan, by the way, so. Okay, I have a little bit of spreading going on here. I did get feet, but again, a little bit of spreading, which is abnormal. I shouldn't say abnormal, but it's the mark of something didn't go perfectly correct. Let's see if these do better. All right, now when I look at these, I already saw this issue going into the oven. We saw how we had a little bit of peaking going on. Now, I'm not going to move them. Don't move them, or else you'll really, really mess up whatever it is that you made. But I'm gonna bring you down a little bit. Actually, I'll just show you manually. So see, we did get feet, which is fantastic. That's one of the hardest parts, but not happy with how kind of wrinkly that is. This happens because I did not macaronage enough. But when I was macaronaging this, interestingly enough, it felt like it was just too thick. So not really sure why that happened. Didn't happen last time when I used this recipe. But have no fear. I am the queen of fixing things that maybe don't look as pretty, and let's make them prettier. Now, of course, this is actually videoing a little bit yellowish. It's not as yellowish in person. It's more of a light pink color. And we're gonna leave them on the pan here. This is why it is so important to use pans that are heavy duty and that are good quality, because that's going to help us thoroughly bake those macarons. And we want to avoid browning on the top. If you ever have customers, what they're looking for from that macaron is they want it to be perfect in the looks department, right? That's the whole point. So I'm noticing there's also a skin on this macaron. So very, very interesting. Don't usually have that. So we'll see if the next one does better. Now the skin issue I've never seen before, but of course I very rarely use the French macaron method. I wanted to show you guys that one because I feel like if you're a beginner and you're a little bit intimidated by the other types of recipes, that it's a good one. And the first time I used it, it was very good. I actually have this macaron here. And this one is using the same recipe. And take a look here. The feet are quite nice, and the top is quite nice too. Still really, really smooth, so it's interesting. And this is why I say the French method isn't necessarily the best method. And I've made like hundreds of macarons, thousands at this point. And so that's why I say it's not super reliable. Even when you quote unquote know what you're doing, sometimes you can still have a little bit of a fail. Okay. Okay, so here we have our Italian meringue, and remember how soupy it was? It's much better now. I'm gonna get a piping bed here. And I'm just gonna go with a round tip today. And I'm going to cut this. Okay. Push that through. And then I'm just using a larger, I think this is number 5. Sorry, number 12. Number 12. Okay. And then I'm going to put that into my piping bag. Just gonna get this ready. Making sure we get the sides. And I'm going to be making some cakes on the weekend, so I'm not going to be using up all of this buttercream for right now. I've got some fun cake things that I'm doing. I still have to finish my big cake project that I have, just been put on hold for a little bit. And my bakery friend, who actually owns her own bakery, she's involved in that project too, so that'll be fun. Okay, let's turn these macarons. There's definitely something off with these ones. You know what, guys? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to try again. We're going to do this one more time. I need to show you guys how to do this properly. And it's going to be pretty quick. I just have to clean my bowl here. It worked so well last time, and I want you guys to see that. Okay, let's do this again. Now, I don't have time for this to come to room temp, so we'll see what happens. The reason that I'm doing this again, my friends, I'm going to show you, is because the texture is just so bizarre. Like it's like a cookie almost. Like, that is so strange to me. That is not the regular texture of a macaron. So we're gonna do it again. It doesn't have that crispness that it should. Okay, so I'm going to put this in again. Okay, now it's supposed to be 77, I believe. Getting up steam here. So 77 grams egg whites. See, I had this all nice for you guys before, all pre-measured, and now we'll just get a little bit more time to chat. No big deal. Okay, we're gonna separate out our egg whites. And then we're going to put our egg yolks in. A little bit, just over 2 eggs. And we're going to have to take some of that out. I would like to use my egg in case I get an eggshell in there. Okay. 77, so we need to try to get there as close as possible. Okay, that's good enough. All right. I'm gonna re-measure out that sugar again. We will make this work. I am determined. When I film other Fail Fridays and I have like lots of fails, this is what it's really like. You're getting the real deal here with me. Okay, gotta measure out our sugar. And it is 70 grams of granulated sugar. Okay. This side. And then we have our dry ingredients. Okay. Okay. I'm talking to the YouTube people.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still on YouTube.
Okay. So now.
And then we're going to measure out 100 grams of the almond flour. What? What? What's wrong? Did you hurt yourself? Sorry guys, my son was trying to tell me something. And I'm going to put on 100 grams almond flour. Now this time if it doesn't work, I quit. But if it does, then yay. Okay. What I'm going to do to make sure that this is 100% accurate, do the recipe. So I'm going to measure it out here first. Move these things over. I'll put this on here. Put this down again. Shake it out like we did before. And I have more almond flour. And you know what? If you have a fail like I just did, no big deal. You just do it again. Try again. Usually for a buttercream, I like to use extract that I have from Mexico. Or I do like to use the Madagascar vanilla bean paste. Otherwise, if it's just going into something and I'm baking it, then I'm not too picky about what I use. I generally just use no name brand. Okay. Okay, now we're going to measure out how much exactly that is. We want to end up with 100 grams. Okay, we're at 92. We'll do just a little bit more. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so we've got 200. Got this. Now we want to measure out our icing sugar or powdered sugar. Just gonna get rid of my egg yolks here, egg shells. Tidying up a little bit before we move to the next step. Okay. And now I'm going to move on to that powdered sugar.